Hey guys, so this is a walkthrough of the beginning of Thousand-Year-Old Vampire. If you missed class, or if you just want a refresher, make sure that you kind of get all the pieces. Let's just jump into it. The first thing you want to do is make sure you grab a copy of the documentation. In the module, there is a digital version. It says Documents Digital Version, or Documents Print Version. If you like to write by hand, you can print this out. It has bigger boxes for you to write in. If you're going to be typing, just grab the digital version. That's the one I'll be using in this demo. All right, so the first thing up is to what are the different terms, and I'll go over these really quickly, but then we'll walk through adding these all one at a time so you understand. You are first going to be creating your character, which is a vampire, a newly turned vampire, and these are the different traits that we will accumulate and use throughout the game. So skills are any things that your character may do, or the potential, perhaps a personality type. So anything that is non-physical, that is the potential to be used in the game by your vampire character, those are your skills. The beginning ones will obviously relate to their life, their pre-vampire life, and we will add more as the game goes along. So it could be anything from hey, I'm good with, if you were a politician, I'm good at talking to people, I'm good at persuading people. That might be a skill. A skill might be a character trait like jealousy or rage. Those can also be skills. They can be skills that you have learned, right? I'll show you which a couple of my characters have learned skills. Resources are any physical assets that your character has. They can be as small as a lucky penny. They could be as large as a castle with a field, and anything in between. It can be like I said, physical objects. It could be like a group of people. Let's say you wanted to be like an army sergeant, and in World War I, and then you have a platoon of soldiers who are going to follow you and be loyal to you no matter what. Right? That would also be that platoon could also be a resource. So any physical thing that you have and might use are your resources. The marks are the physical marks on your body that are kind of give you away. It could be something traditional that we've seen before in other vampire stories, or it can be just something that you make up and you think is kind of cool. Right? Maybe it's some ghostly apparition that follows you. Maybe your eyes are blood red. Maybe you've got like a sore from where the vampire turned you that kind of constantly bleeds, and you have to keep it bandaged up or whatever it is. But it's just that physical sign that might give you away, and kind of ties into your story a little bit. And then there will be other characters in this story. So we'll be making some characters up, both mortal human characters and immortal other vampires, maybe something else. Kind of just depends where the story takes us. And then memories and experiences are kind of how we play the game, and we'll talk about those as we come to them. But know that there are places in the documents for these, and the directions kind of tell you how to start filling these in. So that's the basic sort of traits and resources and pieces that we'll be using. Let's jump in and make our main character, our 1,000-year-old vampire, who is not 1,000 years old yet. So the first thing you want to do is think about the setting and think about this character, right? Where is this going to take place? When is this going to take place? And who are you? I use the second person you when in all these directions, and when I do that, I'm talking about you, the vampire, the new vampire. So you can put this in a very old time period, right? Right around the year 900. You can go even farther back and say 200 BC, in the middle of what is modern day China. You could say 1200 in the Congolese jungle. Whatever you want to do, but it can be something that you know about. You could just sound cool when you want to make it up. You could also do something a little more recent, right? And say hey, maybe during the Vietnam War, and I was a soldier in the Vietnam War and I got turned as a vampire then. Then as you live your life, you will go past the present time and into a future, and that'll be part of your creation. Is what's the future going to look like? You can use a completely alternate universe as well. It does not have to be Earth. You could make up something completely, although that starts to kind of tax on you if you don't have a universe that's preset with details and rules. Sometimes you kind of start to lose the thread a little bit, but that's okay. There's no wrong way to do it. So now that you've thought about that, in the box, memory number 1, experience number 1, you're going to give a short summary of who you are. This is going to be the longest experience, but it should be like maybe 3 sentences, like no more than that. So let me jump down to that and show you where we are. So memory number 1, experience number 1. I am Leonardo Capelli, a 23-year-old sailor from Venice, Italy. It is 1355 and the Black Death is raging through the island, right? So there we go. Venice, Italy, 1355. I'm 23 years old when I get turned into a vampire, and my name is Leonardo, and I'm a sailor, right? So I've got a job, I have a station in life, right? It could be anything from, like, you know, a beggar on the street to a farmer to a king, right? To like whatever you want. You can make them high class, low class, put them anywhere you want to, and just play with it and have fun. So whatever kind of strikes you. But so like that's going to be your memory number 1, experience number 1. Keep it as short as you can while still giving some information. Now that I did that, I also put it back on my front page, right? Here we go. Here's Leonardo. He's from Venice in 1355. The Black Plague running roughly 1340 to 1365, something like that. So right in the middle of the Black Plague, which I thought was going to be fun. All right. So now you've got your basic. You have your setting. You have the initial part of your character. You have a name. You have an age. You have like what they're doing with their lives. Next step, we're going to add some more characters. You're going to create 3 mortal characters that had or have some sort of relationship or connection to you. And the descriptions are going to be very short, right? So 3 characters from regular life before turning into a vampire. My 3 characters, my 3 mortal characters, you can see there's an immortal one on here, and we'll get to that during our setup. Since he's a sailor, I put his captain as part of this. I put his mother and his cousin and best friend. And you can see, okay, so like I said, captain, mom, best friend. Rough ages, you don't have to like put them down exactly, but just so you get an idea, like as time passes, like how old these people actually will get. At some point, they will die and you will not, and we'll have to cross them off of the list. But so it's really, really short. You can see my mother, like the mother one, I made it a little bit longer. Like you don't have to do it this long. It should be really just kind of a couple little words, because you might actually build their descriptions later on in the game too. So just as a side note, that one interesting note I put in here with his mom is that they are isolated from each other because of his travels, which is something that actually happened in Venice. Any ships that came in during the Black Plague, they had to quarantine on an island right off of the main island to keep anybody who caught the plague or any goods that had, like animals, and because like it was carried by the fleas that were on the rats. All that stuff had to stay on the secondary island so that it wouldn't get onto the main island. So in my little story, they're literally living a canal away from each other, but they haven't seen each other in 2 years. I thought that was kind of tragic, but kind of neat, kind of interesting, and apropos to the period. All right, so now we got a couple characters. We have 3 characters, and we have our main character, but let's flush out our main character a little bit, okay? You are going to give yourself 3 skills and 3 resources that you would have from your normal pre-vampire life. That you just have naturally, if they're innate skills, or things that you have gained or learned or taken, through the course of your normal life pre-vampire. So remember, skills are things that are your potential and things that you might do or can do. And then resources are those physical objects, those physical assets. And if you can see, so if we look on here on mine, for Leonardo's, since he is a sailor, he's an international sailor, he has learned to speak several languages, he's good on a boat, and he knows ropes and knots. So and you can see the last 2 are those kind of learned skills that I mentioned. Actually, all 3 of them are. I didn't put any character traits on here, but you can, right? Maybe I could add something like, oh, he's also he has a short temper. Maybe that's on there, right? Maybe he's patient. Maybe he is a very patient person. And then my resources, I've got a little baby knife, a little Persian dagger. He has a secret house in Constantinople, so he has bought a secret plot of land that his family does not know about, and he has a trunk of money from different countries, like throughout his travels. So I tried to sort of all centered around his travels and his job as a sailor in this time period when most people did not travel and did not have this exposure and these experiences, whereas that was kind of the thing that discerns him. 3 skills, 3 resources. And then you are going to figure out how you became a vampire. So you will create an immortal character who was the vampire that turned you, or maybe it wasn't a vampire, maybe it was some like other deity or, you know, some like demigod or something like that. Like it doesn't have to be, hey, a vampire made me a vampire. That's our traditional story. Maybe it's something completely different, right? Maybe somebody like a witch put a curse on you. So but the person must be immortal, or the character must be immortal, and in doing so, you will get a mark. Okay, so some sort of physical mark on your body because of this process, and you're going to turn that into an experience. And that experience is going to go in memory number 5, experience number 1. So it is important where you place these. So memory number 5, experience number 1. So let's take a look at mine. Let's go down to the experience first, and I'll show you how I kind of related them all together. So memory number 5, experience number 1. While on the job in Alexandria, I contracted the Black Death. A mysterious Egyptian woman told me she had a cure. Little did I know, the cure was turning me into a vampire. Right? So I like the idea that this connects his sailing. He's in a faraway land. It happens away from people, right? So like nobody at home knows this. He did have the plague, which everyone's really nervous about right now. But he is cured of the plague, and now he is immortal and he is immune to the plague. So that's how Leonardo gets turned into a vampire. So if we come back up here and look at the mark that I gave him, the mark is his swollen lymph buboes that swell when he's hungry. So those are the swollen lymph nodes that happened when you get the plague. They swell up with the infection and the pus and everything. So because he did have the plague, I thought it'd be kind of a clever thing to relate his mark to that. So now when he gets hungry and it's time for him to feed, they start to swell and they become visible. And you know, maybe that's something that gives them away or scares people away because they think it's the plague. I'm not really sure how it's going to play out, but I thought it would be cool. And then lastly, the character, the person that actually turned him into a vampire, I looked this name up, and the name Ezra means journey at night. I thought that was the perfect name for I just assumed that she's a vampire. I didn't give her any other kind of special stuff. But so this Egyptian vampire, I'm going to put the Egyptian vampire who turned me. Yeah. And so now I have a vampire who has 3 skills, 3 resources, and we know how they got turned into a vampire. There are 3 other characters that are also available for our story. So, and we have a setting. We have a time, place. We have a time, a place, and a setting for this character's previous life, and we're ready to start their 1,000-year-old vampire life. Now, so that is the character setup. I will explain the rest of there's like 2 more parts to set up that will be in the next video. So if you are ready for that, you can follow on to the next one.